Welcome to my YouTube page. One of the things is that I was trying to get on, if you watch big bulls in elk country, I was trying to get on, capture my bull hunt, and of course everything happened so fast that it was getting kind of late in the evening, so we were in a hurry. Then we ran across the herd, and then we actually got the one that I wanted. Uh, I guess that day I was chasing some bigger ones, and you could see them in the video. And one of the things I wanted to do is kind of go over field judging, because if you're like me and you're in the field, you get excited and you're like, oh, that's a big one, that's a big one. And this is just for, I always hear everybody says you can't eat the antlers and all that. Yeah, we get that, but it's still fun to score them and get an idea of how to field judge your bulls, or what you're looking at in the field. And so if you're like me, then you have ground shrinkage when it's this humongous bull, and then all of a sudden you're walking up to it and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But so today I wanted to kind of go over a little general idea, give it kind of a general idea of what these bulls will score. And in this case, I'm saying this one's probably right around 370 or so. It'd be bigger if the points weren't broke. So with further ado, kind of when you're in the field, one of the things you can use is a simple rope. Fishing line's another one I always use. Yarn, anything that you can get a distance with, because this is kind of a general idea of how we're going to score and come up with how big our bull is. So of course you're going to have your notepad, and I always will take my measuring tape, so then that way I can transfer it from my string. You kind of want to maybe pull it out to about 60 or so, because that's about generally how our main beams are. So what this one is actually, I found a little point over on this side. So if your points are over an inch or over, normally that's considered a point. So this one's actually a 7x7 by the books. So we will be, you'll measure from, actually let's just get started. So what we're gonna first do is, to start it off, we're gonna measure the inside, or the first part of the beams, the first 4 parts of the beams. So we got 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So I'll move over onto the other side to give us a general idea of how we're doing it. So when we're over here doing our beams, we'll start with this one. This will be our first main beam. And we want to do the smallest part. So in this case, it'd be pretty much the dead center. And then we're going to move it to our tape measure. In this case, we don't need it to be probably over 20 inches. And this one it's 9.5. So we'll put it down 9.5. And then you could kind of slide it up. So actually this part's wider. And then slide it down and to right there. So this one is 8 for the second part, and I already have some of these pre-written down. Our third beam, part of the beam, 7.5. Now we'll go 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth part will be up here. So I would say it kind of has a crown to them too, so probably right about there. That's our fourth part of our beam, and that's about at 7. That's about a quarter. So I'll always round down. 7.5 actually, sorry. 7.5. So I always round down when we are measuring, because it's rough. So I don't want to have it all off because I'm rounding up, or I'm not exact. So I always round down to give myself a better. Now one way too is when you're doing it from the beam, you're measuring the points. We're going to be measuring the 6, because the 7th actual point will be the main beam. So We'll just measure 6. So the best way to do on the outside is just to put your finger right here to give you an idea where you're going to be measuring the point down to. So one of the things too is you'll just start from up there and you'll line it up, and then you'll just run your string down and just hold it, and then run it all the way down to right where your point meets the beam. So this one is actually at almost 14 3/4, so I'm gonna go 14 1/2 on my actually 14, yeah, actually it was 15. So my second point, I'm gonna start and run it down. Up there. This one is 16 1/2. 16. I have 16 1/2, but I'm gonna put 16. Our third one, almost can run that all the way down with that. Put the beam right there. This one is 13 1/2, pretty much even, 13 1/2. And that, for 13 1/2 for a broken off third, that is insane. That's pretty good. So now we're gonna move up to our fourth. And I'll bring my I don't know if we consider this our, no, that's our fourth. Right about. Actually, I'm going backwards. That one's actually mine, right on the spot. So, fifth. Now this is the one where I'm not sure if we're gonna go down to here to measure it or here. So when I'm not sure, because I want to say this is probably the part of the main beam. So it'd go from here. That's a good question. So anybody knows that? Can we answer that? So should we consider, because this would be the part where we'd score from right here, and that's just a branch. Alright, let's take that off and then let's just score it from here. Yeah, someone can answer that for me. If once it kind of breaks off like that, are we still going right here? Or are we going, well, let's do them both. Let's just do it this way. Actually, let's go back. That I didn't realize. I don't know, that just feels weird. No, let's just go right here. If you can answer that for me, somebody, I'd appreciate that. So we'll just go here. I don't know, that's kind of a crown that screws me up. That's actually 17. We'll go 16 1/2, kind of funky. So we'll go 16 1/2, but if somebody can let me know how that, if I go from here or from right here. So I think I'm thinking, because this one branches off of this one, so that's kind of funky for me. That's why I'm not the professional. So this one is 12 1/2, and then we have our main beam. So now we'll measure our main beam. We'll start from here. This is where you'll want to pull your tape measure all the way out and your main beam. Now I have myself wondering. That's the point of doing it smaller, I guess, so that you'll be happier if I did it wrong. Now I'm really curious on that. So this is 51. 51 on there. So we measure all of our 6 points on this side, and now we'll be moving over to the other side to do our right side. So I always go left will be on this side and right will be on that side as it's looking away. That could be wrong too. I can't remember how technical we're gonna get when we're in the field. So alright, so we're gonna start. Actually, let's do our spread. So the spread is the widest part of the inside, so I'm assuming right here. Right there is probably it. Tell you how much he spreads. 38 3/4, so I'm gonna go 38 and a half on that. Now we'll tip him over to get the other side. So now we're gonna do our right inside. That comes down to 10 even. I'm gonna move that down some. Try not to stretch myself all over the place. The next one, that seems narrow, more narrow, or 7. It's over 7, so we'll put it at 7. 3. It's a little over 7, so we'll put 7. And then our 4th one right here. So that point's right there. And it's at 8 1/4, but we'll put 8. Alright, so now we'll start with our point from the inside. So unorthodox the way I have it. This first point on this side is 14 and a little over, so 14 and a half. It's less. It's probably about 14 3/4, so it's probably about 1/4 of an inch reduction on that from the other side. Run it down here. This one is 17 and a half. So that's an inch deduction from the other side. So this side's actually way bigger, but this one's chipped off. There's a lot of chips on them from fighting. And then this is going to be a big deduction because this third's going to be way bigger because he's broke off. You can tell, like, right when you see him. When I seen him right away and I seen their thirds, I already knew he was a big bull. It's right there. Tell you, it's at 19 and a quarter, but we'll go 19. So his thirds were 13 and a half on there, so I lost about 6 inches on that other side from the third. This one's not so funky because I don't know, I'm still curious to how that one's gonna work out, pan out for me. $17 and a half. It's almost 18, but I'm gonna go with 17 and a half. It's actually his right side's actually bigger. And this one's 2. I remember I already measured that. 2. And then a 6 point 12 and a half. So they're about the same. And we'll measure our right beam. Remember, we don't measure the last point on it because it will be included in the beam. Feels bigger than 52. Oh man, he is 54 on the other side, so that'll be a 3-inch deduction. 3 inches bigger than the other side, so 54 and 51 are the main beams. So anytime you get over 50 main beams, then you know you got a nice bull, because that's 100 points right there. So we got 54 on this side, 51 on this side, and then our spread is 38 and a half. So okay, now we'll add it up, see how big it is. So I'm going to show everybody the total of it. This bull come up to 373 and a half after adding it up. So one of the things too is that I rounded down on everything in case I made error. I'm not positive about how where I should be measuring off of that other branch if it goes down to the main beam itself. So he could probably be, if I did that wrong, that's probably about another 7 inches. So he could easily be a 380 bull. So gross, these three right now, without him being professionally scored, he's a 373 and a half bull, and probably grossing around, with all the deductions, right around 360. So give you an idea roughly, but I don't really worry about that too much, about the nets. But that's a rough score, how you score your bull in the field, to give you a good idea when you're looking at bulls too, to how to gauge them is by obviously the spread. You want to get a general idea, like, okay, that's a 38 to 50 inch spreads, anything like that, that's a nice spread. So of course you're going to know anything between 16 inches and bigger is going to give you a good indicator. Once you can look at the thirds too and get a good indicator how big their thirds are. In this case they were 13 and a half and 19. That will give you anytime you see weak thirds and you kind of know, gives you an indicator that it might be a smaller bull than what you think it is. So with that being done, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If I missed anything, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm always glad to learn something else in case I missed it too, so I can share it with everybody else. With that being said, all right, happy hunting everybody.